Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, yet another chapter in these Asic wars. Now it's really heating up with Alephium now. So this battle between iceriver and Bitmain is continuing to escalate. Bitmain has now responded. We're going to talk about the new AL1 price, how it's going to affect things, and kind of the future outlook of this thing and different risk factors to consider if you're thinking about this thing, because it is a significant price cut. Okay, so we're going to talk about it. We'll give our thoughts. So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. And here we go. Just like we were kind of guesstimating, pretty good price though. So they just announced it today. Shout out to T-Swift actually in his Telegram. Saw the post later on, but he had this news a good day and a half before everybody else. Think like 12, 18 hours later, saw some of the resellers change. And then finally, just now, Bitmain's officially confirming. So this is the new price. A lot of the resellers do have their prices up. We'll talk about the prices here. But essentially, a couple of things to note. Number one, the price, right? Under 10K, $99.99, which is why they're undercutting the iceriver unit. We'll talk about what's likely to happen, though, here in a second. So the key thing, though, price point, good, especially in comparison to 30K. It does beat the AL3, which is the iceriver unit. And this thing is available now. You're not having to wait until the end of October to start getting your Asic. Okay, so you are getting a month heads up on top of a better price for what is arguably the superior unit, right? If they're within like 10-20%, I'll take the Bitmain unit all day over the iceriver. The main advantage with the iceriver is if you're able to get a much better discount on the Asic itself, but if it's anywhere near, definitely the Bitmain unit all day. Okay, so pretty crazy reduction, and again, the reason they are reducing this price is because of the IC Boys' discount, which they lowered theirs to, which was weird. I mean, initially, actually, the price reduction was because of the AL2, right? So we saw the price reduction with the AL2, and then later on, when they updated the website, is when we saw the new reflection of the AL3 price. Okay, so what we were saying, though, and it's still kind of true right now, the AL3 price is still overpriced, especially even comparing to their own unit, right? The AL2, if you were to get 8 of these, which is going to give you 16 terahash versus the 15 of the AL3, it's still a better price, right? So in reality, like we were saying, the AL3 price, this already needed to be lower because of the AL2 unit. So even before this Bitmain price drop, this thing was already overpriced, right? And apparently some of the resellers agree because they already do have it at a lower price. For example, Nhash has it at under 10K, it's $98.99. So realistically, this is a better price. This is closer to where it should be, but again, it's almost on par with the AL2. The AL2 almost exactly scales in, right? If we do some easy math, if we do a bulk buy of these, it brings it down to $12.25 each. Okay, so if we do $12.25 multiplied by the 8, which is going to give you actually still more hash rate, that brings you to 9,800 bucks. Okay, so this is actually still cheaper to buy the smaller guy, which is not typical. Typically, again, these you're paying a premium to get a smaller slice of that pie, meaning that the AL3 is still overpriced at where it's at. Okay, so this is kind of weird. So realistically, the AL3, like we mentioned, it needs to be between the 8 to 9K. Realistically, even just basing it off of this price, even before the Bitmain announcement, it should have been $89.99. Okay, so do not be surprised to see that price cut, because again, as prices are currently, again, this guy is available spot. You're not waiting the month and a half for the other guy. This is the superior unit, so for me to consider the AL3, it needs to be a significant price cut from this guy. Okay, so this guy, even on the reseller's website, they have it pretty close to the price that they're listing here. Okay, so definitely would go through a reseller instead of here to avoid the tariffs and all that stuff. So just depending on who you want to purchase from. But this is going to be the better price. So the thing is though, AL3, extremely likely we are going to see another cut because of this. And it's probably going to happen before these things ship out. Okay, this thing again is not going to ship out to the 15th to the 30th. And like I mentioned, all day it's going to make more sense to go with this guy. So basing off of the AL2 price, right, which is before the consideration of the Bitmain price, so between this guy and now this new news, this guy very likely going to go down further. Okay, I realistically, again, it needs to be significantly lower than this guy for me to consider. The Bitmain unit is superior. No matter how you want to spin it, it's the better unit. So for me to consider the iceriver unit, even if everything is the same, it needs to be cheaper. So in order for me to buy or consider, it needs to be even lower than the 8,900. Realistically, probably closer to 7,000. Somewhere between 6 and 7. And it's hard to even say, man, just because freaking Icy Boys have been so aggressive lately. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they just go crazy and lower it even further. Goes down to 6, goes down to 6,500, somewhere in that region. Okay, and then at that point, probably by the time that the AL3 ship, what do you think Bitmain's going to do? They're going to keep doing this thing, right? We've seen it time and time again. We've been following these things closely. We know that they're going to happen. Okay, the only thing that's going to stop it, though, is what? Is the price of Alephium. Again, these hype ASICs are priced based solely on profitability. Okay, so if the price of Alephium starts to tank, or actually if it starts to increase, right, goes with the rest of the market, which currently, because you haven't noticed, things are starting to escalate and the sentiment is flipping bullish like that. Okay, whether or not it happens, is it whales playing games because we're waiting for October? Who knows, right? But this is going to also dictate things. Because if this does go up, if it goes up to what, $2.50, $3, $3.50, $4, these profitability numbers do change quite drastically. Okay, so that's where it's going to change, right? That can change things because eventually the market's going to flip, right? So the reason we're even following these things and the reason these things are even remotely interesting is because there is going to get to a point where the market does flip, and instead of seeing these things go to zero, it's going to start going the other way, or at least it's going to level off and slowly creep up. Okay, so the reason we're interested is because we want to catch it before that happens, right? When the price is low, before that run up. That's when you make out, because then what happens if Alephium does start running? Let's say it does go parabolic, goes to $5, $6, $7, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. It's totally feasible with the market cap this small, with so much money on the line with these ASICs. Okay, it's because what do you think is going to happen here? If Alephium does start catching on, let's say the market starts getting really hot, BTC breaks all-time high, prices are probably going to go up across the board, and what else do you think is going to happen? These manufacturers are going to help pump that price up even further than probably what it should go. Why? To sell these freaking units. Okay, so timing is going to be everything, but to me, it's just even in the short term, like I would fully expect this thing to happen again fairly quickly. Okay, we saw Bitmain's response extremely quickly, and as a matter of fact, just Alephium in general has been extremely accelerated, right? We're seeing like 3 to 5 months of the ASIC price wars happen within 3 to 5 weeks. Okay, it's like on Caspa on steroids right now currently. Okay, so a lot of things to factor in here. Let's look at current profitability and kind of the outlook of this thing. So currently, profit-wise, it's making about $55 a day. What we're really concerned with is the yield, which is about 38 Alph a day. And this is where it's going to get tricky, though. So again, focus on the yield, number one. Number two, what's going to greatly change here, because it's an immature network. The hash rate and difficulty, meaning your yield is going to go down pretty drastically. Ultimately, it has gone up. We just did an Alephium video a few days ago. We were at 16 petahash. Now we're at 21. Okay, so things are escalating because, again, there are other manufacturers making these things. We know Dragon Ball is making these things, and they're probably not selling them. So what are they doing? They're probably making them and self-mining. Okay, which we've seen they did with Radiant. It wasn't just a rumor mill. It's confirmed that they were doing that, and it's extremely likely that if they're unable to sell their units because of these extreme price cuts with these other vendors, they're probably just going to be self-mining these things, right? So again, you have to factor in that this is going to escalate, and it's going to escalate even further now with, again, now the reduction of this guy, because a lot of people are going to be interested because they're going to see that price reduction. Oh man, this thing was 30K, now it's 10K, insta-buy, without doing the research. And it's going to happen, right? We've seen it time and time again. As crazy these prices are, as much as they don't make sense, people still buy them for whatever reason. Okay, so if you're considering one of these things at these price points, you need to factor in that it's going to go up, and it's going to go up pretty quickly because of, number one, this guy, number two, the AL3, and I think the biggest factor is going to be this guy, right? Just depending on how many they make, because this thing is such a great deal in comparison, because again, it's scaling into both the AL3 and this guy. You're getting a small slice of the pie for a fraction of the price. Okay, so to me, this guy is more appealing. So regarding the hash rate, again, we're currently at 20. By mid-November, when those AL3s will be shipping, because again, factoring in, I'm considering that there's probably going to be another price drop by between now and then. Okay, so I would not be surprised to not only see a double, like I would factor in when you're doing your estimates for it to triple from here. Okay, I would be factoring in closer to 60 petahash than anything. Okay, so because again, it's not going to take that many units, especially with these big boys. The smaller guys, yes, it's going to take a lot. I don't know if they're going to be able to produce them fast enough, but because of this price point, because it was 30K and it's 10K, it's going to pique a lot of people's interest. And because of that, again, it's only going to take, I mean, let's do just easy math again for comparison's sake. It's going to take, I mean, we can eyeball it to add another 32 petahash. What, 2,000 units is going to add 32 petahash, right? So 16 terahash multiplying by the 2,000, it's 32,000. So again, you're just dividing by 3. So that's why it's easy. Okay, so in order to add the 40, to go up to 40, it would be what, 3,000, 2,500-ish. Let's multiply it. 2,500, multiplying it by the 16, yeah, that's about 40 petahash. Okay, so 2,500 units would bring us to that 60 petahash, meaning as far as your yield goes, it would bring you from the 37, again, easy math, let's do a third of that, down to, let's call it 36, it'll bring you down to about 12. Okay, so that's where it changes drastically. And if Alephium's price stays where it's at, what do you think is going to happen? The prices are going to go down. But now, if Alephium goes to $4, $5 by then, what happens there? Now those 12 Alephium are now worth in the realm of this range still, right? At $5, that's still about $60 in terms of revenue, bringing you pretty close to the same range, right? But again, that would take a 3x in Alephium's price within the matter of 6 or so weeks. Which is it possible? Sure. Is it super likely? Not necessarily, right? Alephium does need to gain traction. Right now, market is pumping and it's staying relatively flat, which is not a good sign, especially with the announcements of these Asics going on sale. You would think that there would be more interest here and this thing would start going up. So that is definitely a little bit concerning, but it depends on your viewpoint. Long-term wise, for me, the value is still the same. In the short term, realistically, me being greedy, me wanting cheaper Asics, this is what I want to see. If anything, I want this thing to tank down even further to essentially guarantee those price reductions. Okay, but again, even Alephium just staying sideways is going to be more than enough to almost essentially guarantee price reductions because of the difficulty increases. Okay, so these are the dynamics you have to play. But in terms of just looking at it outright, would I buy one of these things at $10,000? Let's talk about the extreme risk factors. Number one being price reductions. That alone would keep me away. If I'm interested in getting a slice of this, it's the AL2 Lite. AL2 Lite scales in almost perfectly to either unit, and it's reducing your risk by a ton. $1,250 in comparison to $10,000. If it does go down to an extreme price reduction, this thing goes down to 6K, going from $1,250 down to $600, not that big of a deal. 10K to 5K sucks. Okay, so especially right now when it seems extremely likely that there will be further reductions, because again, the AL3 at this current price point, even on the reseller's price point, this doesn't make any sense. Why are you going to pay this when you can pay essentially this for spot availability? You don't have to wait the 6 weeks. Okay, so therefore the AL3 price does not make any sense. So what do you think is going to happen? It's way too likely that this thing's going to go down to 7K, $69.99, potentially even lower, right? It's really hard to say because at this point, these damn icy boys, they don't give a crap. They're extremely willing to lose. So again, I wouldn't consider one of these things, right? So the price reduction is a big thing alone. Another thing that would have me on the fence, even considering at that price point, is the fact that it's just weird that the AL1 and the AL3 have very similar specs. Okay, what have we seen with the Caspa ASICs? The Bitmain units were always a generation ahead. It's extremely weird that they're both of them on their initial release are at the same level. Okay, to me what that's saying is that's probably the best iceriver can currently do, and it's potential that Bitmain is sandbagging and they already have their AL5 already on deck. Okay, so that's theoretical. That's completely a rumor mill, but just strategically thinking, it just, again, it doesn't make any sense that they have the same efficiency. To me, it makes more sense that Bitmain would release their older gen if they had availability for both, because it's obviously going to sell now, it's not going to sell in the future. Sell those batches now and then sell the latest gen, which would make more sense, right? Unless it's possible that iceriver did step up their game and they're on par now. To me, that's not the most likely thing in the world though, right? So again, that's a rumor mill, that's me speculating. But for me to kind of hedge against that, then it needs to be cheap because of that. Because if AL5 does come out from Bitmain, a newer unit, price point's going to be pretty crazy. So like for me, if that were to happen, it needs to be like half of what the current price is in order to hedge against that, for me to take that risk. Okay, so immediately, even if that theory weren't in play, like, okay, this is the latest and greatest, the iceriver unit needs to be in the 7K range. Realistically, for me to consider buying, it needs to potentially be lower if that kind of plays out. Because again, if a 30 terahash unit comes out, then guess what? That guy's automatically going to get reduced in half or a quarter of what it is currently. So that would be kind of a hedge against it, buying at such a low price. If it goes down to that point, if that even happens, right? That's all rumor mill, but that's me kind of like thinking ahead. Will it happen? Won't it happen? We don't know. Is there still value at this price point? Sure. I mean, what you're betting against is that you think that Alephium's going to start flipping pretty soon. Okay, like if you think that Alephium's going to start flipping here within the next few weeks, then this way you're locking in that price. But again, it just seems way, way too likely that this price is going to lower further. Because again, at this current price point, it does not make any sense. It is 100% overpriced. Okay, so again, at these similar price points, this guy all day. So it seems way too likely that we're going to see some kind of a sale here in a few weeks, and it's going to go down to 8K, $79.99, and then maybe a tad bit cheaper from the reseller, something in that range. Then at that point, it just kind of depends on what happens these next few weeks and if that gets announced, which to me, it seems extremely likely. Only time will tell here, guys. All we can do is do theories and see, but again, we can go based off of what has happened, and we've been on point this whole time, right? So, and even just taking the strategy away, I mean, just using common sense here. Like, again, this doesn't make any sense in comparison to this. We know the IC boys have been extremely aggressive with the price. It's just way too likely they're going to cut. And this guy now at 7K and this guy at 10K, now the iceriver starts becoming more appealing. Will they go even crazier? Like, for example, what they did with even the AL3. Again, I thought this guy was going to go to 20K, 19K. That would have been a pretty aggressive cut. They went down to this price. Who's to say the same thing doesn't happen here and they actually go to 5K or even lower? It's very possible. It really just depends, again, on this. Okay, so if you want cheap ASICs like I do, then I want horrible price action. I want sideways action. I want it to go down to kind of guarantee that price reduction. And then the possibility may happen because now let's say it does go to 7K. Even if there's a 50% price reduction from there, it goes down to 3,500. A lot less risk there, right? So again, as the price goes down, you're kind of lowering your risk to an extent, right? And that's where you kind of have to factor in. And that's where all the strategy, all the theorizing kind of comes into play. But again, this is totally up to you. It's a decision you have to make. But just looking at all the data, it just seems too likely that this scenario is going to play out. Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Are you guys interested now? I know this is extremely tempting because you look at the previous price, you look at current price, like, oh man, this is the time. But look at what's happened. Look at history, which we've covered over and over and over and over again, and it's been happening just like that. So again, if a dummy like me can kind of look at trends, I expect them to see them also, and I expect them to go through with it, right? So let's see what happens, guys. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you guys think, though. Do you guys see a similar thing playing out? Do you guys think this is it? Do you guys think Alph is going to moon from here? Let me know in the comments, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I am out.